We're live.
Okay, thank you. This is Senate Judiciary. We're taking up S71, which is a bill dealing with hospital liens. So we have a redraft, and I'm going to ask Senator Hashim to take over the recognizing people and commenting, because it's harder for me to do that when I'm remote. So if you would, Senator.
Yep, so we have Amarin going first.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, Amarin for Daily Legislative Council. You have before you draft 1.2, a strike all amendment for S79, an act relating to limitations on hospital liens. This is a markup version, so you'll be able to see what was in the original as introduced bill, and then the yellow highlight shows where I have stricken language from the as introduced version, and then highlighted underlined languages where I have added new language. So starting first in section 1, in section 2251, lien established of Title 18, I've made one change here at the beginning of subsection A to say except as otherwise provided in this section, because we are adding some new limitations in here. We've added a new subsection B1, or designation, I should say. Should I refresh the committee's memory about this bill, or is it still pretty fresh in your memory?
I would ask you to refresh my memory on that.
Mine. Before I dive into the nitty-gritty details. So the current statute allows a hospital in Vermont to establish a lien to recover payments that a patient has received through litigation after having an accident, so that the hospital can recover some of its costs for providing services to that patient if the patient did not otherwise pay for those services. So that is what's currently in this subsection A here. You'll remember that there was a deletion in the as introduced version, which still remains here, saying that the lien doesn't attach to 1/3 of the recovery or $500. So the lien can be all the way, under current law, all the way up to $500 of that patient's recovery amount as from the litigation. And then, and that is after the attorney's fees are taken out from that recovery. So that's current law. Then this next section in subsection B, this is the non-highlighted language, is the language from the as introduced version, which says that a hospital shall not have a lien under this chapter if the patient has health insurance, including coverage under Medicare or Medicaid, or a health insurance plan offered by it, or excuse me, health plan issued by a health insurer. You may recall there was testimony the last time this committee took up this bill to remove the language the hospital has a contractual agreement with that payer. So that language is shown here as being stricken from the as introduced version. And then new language, Peggy, we're now moving into page 2. Thank you. Saying that the patient must provide the hospital with proof of health insurance not later than 90 days after the patient's discharge from the hospital. So long as the person has health insurance of some kind and the patient provides the hospital with proof of that health insurance within 90 days after they're discharged, the hospital could not have a lien. However, subdivision 2 says, notwithstanding that provision, a hospital can have a lien under subsection A for any amount owed to the hospital for the patient's deductible or co-insurance or both under the health insurance plan for those services furnished by the hospital by filing notice of a lien at least 120 days after the hospital billed the patient's health insurance plan for the amount that they were owed. Yes.
So a hospital shall have a lien. Should that not be a may have a lien? This is allowed, this is permissive, not demanding, or it should be, at least in my opinion.
Right. So in part, I'm mirroring the language from subsection A, right, that says a hospital shall have a lien upon any recovery for damages to be received by patients. So in part, I'm just mirroring the language because we were saying that you can under subsection A.
Right, but
So it is qualified by saying by filing notice of a lien at least 120 days after.
I still think it shouldn't be shall, it should be may. I don't think the language should be reading as requiring a lien, but should be reading as allowing a lien.
I think part of this is the outdated nature of the language in subsection A that I see what you're saying and I can adjust.
Okay.
Which I might adjust it also in subsection A.
Yeah,
so
no,
that it's
when I see it,
consistent.
I would agree, argue that as well. Yes,
So
in
the
both.
language in part is phrased that way because it is mirroring language
Okay.
under subsection A.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next is given that it is also in subsection A, I would suggest we change it to a may there as well. Thank you, sorry, that just threw me.
I can understand it is unusual language. It is not how we customarily draft these days. So that is subdivision 2. Subdivision 3 states that the patient's health insurance plan shall not deny payment for services furnished by the hospital to the patient on the basis that a property casualty insurance carrier is responsible for the patient's injuries unless such denial is required or expressly permitted by state or federal law.
And when would that kick in? Unless, when would that come to fruition, shall we say?
This is a language that's just in case there's federal or state law elsewhere that says there are certain circumstances where the health insurance plan must deny. I don't know that there are any. To be honest, I'm not that familiar with property casualty insurance. We were originally looking at this for third-party insurance generally, in which case there are instances when an insurance carrier may have to deny due to federal regulations around who pays first, who pays last for health insurance. So it is there just in case there is a law, a federal or state law that we're not aware of at this time that says that property casualty insurance could deny. I don't know that there is. I don't know if any of the witnesses have strong feelings or thoughts on this either way, but property casualty insurance is not my specialty.
Okay, well, perhaps when they come up,
Yes.
Delve into that.
Subsection C1. This is language that was in the introduced version, which says that a hospital that recovers under this chapter shall be responsible for a pro rata share of the legal and administrative expenses incurred in obtaining the judgment, settlement, or compromise. And then subdivision 2 is the same, except that rather than having a hospital lien capped at 25% of the net judgment, settlement, or compromise, it is now 1/3. And then the last change, which is on page 3, is the effective date, making this act effective on January 1st, 2024, rather than July 1st, 2023. Any questions on the amendment language?
No, we'll listen.
I wonder if anybody wants to comment that's in the room, and again, I can't see their hands, or I see Chris online.
Seeing heads nodding, and I think we do have a witness list, so I think we just want me to just keep going down the witness list, Senators?
Yeah, I think that'd probably be the best thing to do.
Sarah, I see you're on there next. Sarah Teachout.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Teachout with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Vermont, and I really appreciate you continuing to work on this bill. We think it's a big improvement from the current law and important patient protections. It represents a lot of compromise. I'll just say that up front. And with respect to section 3, the one about the patient's health insurance plan shall not divide payment for services, that one that you were just discussing with Amarin, on the basis of a property casualty insurance carrier. we put that in, you know, at the very last minute. And so if there are technical changes to improve it, we'll work on that as it goes through the process. We think it works, but that's the only thing I would say. I think in spirit, what we wanted to do is say, the health insurer cannot deny on the basis of there being a property casualty payment. So other than that, I appreciate your supporting the bill, and hopefully can figure out a way to get it through.
I know that's the next step. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then the next witness we have is Devin Green.
Thanks. Good morning. Devin Green, Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. I can echo that a lot of compromise went into this bill and really appreciate everyone else's work on it. Here we were really trying to balance both consumer protection and patient protection and ensuring that they have resources, along with ensuring that hospitals do get paid for services that they provide. And so the one piece about the health insurance plan not denying payment, what we're really trying to do there is just ensure that we don't get penalized for not pursuing the lien, because there has been in the past a concept of, you know, pursue other payment methodologies first, and then certain coverage like Medicaid would pay last. And so we just want to make sure that this does not jeopardize any reimbursement that we should be getting under the health insurance plan. So it is a complex set of laws. So this language may be tweaked a little bit in this, but we did want to get it out today. So thank you.
Thank you. And then Kristen Ross.
Hi, good morning. Kristen Ross on behalf of the Vermont Association for Justice. I just want to say we really appreciate all of the effort that went into from all the stakeholders to compromise on this. And we've spent a lot of time working, and the Vermont Association for Justice is happy with the compromise and definitely feels as though this is a much better statute and procedure for our injured Vermonters. And so thank you very much. And we look forward to working to get the bill passed.
Thank you. And then Mike.
Thank you, Mike Fisher, healthcare advocate. Thanks for allowing me to come to the table for a second. The healthcare advocate's office also supports this bill, supports this compromise. We didn't get everything we were looking for, but that's what happens with compromise. And we think it's a real improvement for consumers.
Thank you. Oh, Senator Host.
I actually have a quick question for all the witnesses, and it is about my challenge with the language of shall versus may. Does anyone in the group have a problem with changing that?
Devin Green, Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. I would just like to look at the language when it's picked out. I mean, to me, this reads as you shall have the ability to do the lien, and then the filing of the lien is the actual, that's the choice. That's the may piece. So I have no problem with the concept. I just want to double check the language.
Okay, yeah, because the way this reads to me is that it is directing you to file the lien. And every other bill that I've read with the shall versus may, like that is how this reads to me, which I absolutely don't want to put into statute. I want to give you the ability to.
Tony, can I ask where, which line?
So there's two spots on page 1, line 13. It actually begins a little bit above that, but it, so it starts on.
And that's existing law.
Yes, so it does need to be changed in existing law as well, but, you know, including charges of private duty nurse to a patient injured by reason of an accident not covered by workers' compensation. You know, it says shall have a lien upon any recovery for damages. And then if you go to page 2, beginning on line 5, it says notwithstanding subdivision 1 of this subsection, a hospital shall have a lien pursuant. And I just think that should read may. Like this language reads pretty clearly to me that we are directing the hospitals to have a lien as opposed to allowing them. Oh, no.
Sorry, Kristen. Ross.
Hi.
Sorry.
I just wanted to say, Senator, you're absolutely correct. That just slipped off of our radar, to be perfectly honest. Right now, even though the current statute says shall, hospitals don't have to. And in fact, as I already testified, many hospitals do not. And so we didn't mean to change that. We don't want to direct hospitals that they have to file liens. We want to leave it permissive. So I completely support clarifying that to may versus shall once Devin has a chance to look at it.
Healthcare advocate, agreed.
Okay.
Well, I just want to be clear in my own mind what this would do. So if somebody could help me with, so if somebody has a very high deductible, they're responsible for co-pays up to say $2,000, $10,000, whatever their health insurance plan is, versus somebody who has a rather low deductible and is responsible for up to $1,000 per year. So the may might be for people with a huge deductible, or I mean, who would be may and who would be shall? If we leave it as may, who gets charged the deductible? It's up to the individual hospital.
Devin Green, Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. I think the may and shall goes towards the lien part. And so it wouldn't impact the consumer or the deductible. It's just saying either the hospital shall have a lien or it may have a lien.
For instance, if a person says, whatever the size of the deductible, I've got this, I'm gonna pay for it, here's a check. There's no reason to say the hospital has to have a lien.
Right.
So giving the hospital the ability to have a lien makes sense.
Kristen?
Just to clarify, Senator Sears, no matter what, the patient remains financially responsible for the deductible. What we wanted to do is give the patient first the opportunity to pay the deductible themselves, whether through a health savings account or med pay coverage. That's why we put in the 120 days. If the patient can't pay the deductible themselves, then the hospital can file a lien for that deductible. So it doesn't change. The patient will always remain financially responsible for the deductibles and copays. It just gives the hospital a tool. If they can't get that money from the patient directly, then they can lien the case after properly billing health insurance.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Not seeing anything else in the room, Senator Sears.
No, I don't have any. The only thing I would suggest is if we vote the bill out today, it would go to the Rules Committee, I assume would be referred to Rules. And in the meantime, which means it would be on the floor January of 2024. In the meantime, we can search for a House bill to put it on. Assuming we have a positive vote.
Are we waiting for any further markup, Senator Sears, on this bill, or?
I think it's just changed the may to shall. I mean, the shall to may. Thank you.
If the chair would entertain a motion, I would move the bill favorably with the understanding that we'd be making that single change.
Yes.
Oh, Ameren?
Yes, Ameren, Arizona Legislative Council. Just one comment, I think I would change rather than shall have, may file a lien, rather than just changing the may and shall, because I think may have a lien sounds a little unclear. I think may file a lien.
That works.
Thank you.
Okay, Senator Baruth has moved that we amend S79 as seen in draft 1.2 with the changes just discussed in terms of changing a shall to may have, whatever.
Devin Green, Vermont Association of Hospitals and Health Systems. If this does not have a vehicle this year and goes on next year, we will be changing the implementation date. Right? Okay, just want to make sure.
What's the new version of it?
The new version will be 1.3.
1.3.
1.3. So is there further discussion of draft 1.3?
Yes, Senator Sears. Prior to voting on this, I'd like to commend these individuals for making this much easier on us to come to a vote on this, because basically a lot of this stuff is really above me, to be quite honest, and I'm glad to see that all parties could conceptually agree upon what's in everyone's best interest here, so I'd like to thank them for that.
Okay. I agree. I second that. Hopefully we have the same luck with the power of attorney bill. All those in favor of amending the bill as seen in draft 1.3, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. Senator Baruth further moved that we report favorably S-79 as amended. Is there any further discussion on that? Hearing none. Peggy, would you please call the roll?
Senator Baruth,
Yes.
Senator Norris,
Yes.
Senator Bihowski,
Yes.
Senator Hashim,
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Yes. So that's unanimous vote on S-79. It'll ride like Charlie on the MTA. I'll see how it lands.
I don't get any of
Pardon?
Smiling,
You don't remember the old, I've just aged myself.
No, Senator Sears, I think it might just be a Boston fan thing.
Yeah, Charlie was on the MTA, the Mass Transit Authority, and he kept riding around because he could never stop. It was the Kingston Trio song years ago.
Got it.
Oh, Kingston Trio.
I
And,
think
you
it's
know,
a Boston thing.
would like to report this bill.
I mean, I suspect probably, given that I'm lead sponsor on this bill, I should.
I think that would be a good idea. So,
It is my bill.
yeah,
No interest in reporting this?
you might check with Health and Welfare to see if they have anything that it could be attached to. Senator Lyons wouldn't mind,
I can do that.
but I don't think there's anything in this committee that we could attach to with a straight face if anybody asks for humaneness. Of course, if they don't ask for humaneness, then it can happen.
Well, Senator, I hear you're pretty masterful at finding vehicles for moving things, so I'm sure.
Well, I was in the past. I mean,
Or creating vehicles, like with the cannabis.
yeah, that was one of, I have to tell you, that was one of the prize things in my
Yes,
career.
sir.
It's a legend. That is what I was referring to. I have heard the legend of your mastery.
Yeah, Senator Sears amended a sort of unrelated bill with a very small cannabis piece. And nobody batted an eye. It was 1.5 pages or whatever. Then having made that amendment, it was germane, and he brought in the bill, which was like this big, to legalize cannabis.
It passed.
The best part of that was Senator Flory and Senator Mullen, where I was sitting behind them, and they realized what was happening. All of a sudden, Senator Flory leans over to Senator Mullen and goes, "Holy shit, he's putting cannabis on."
It is a legend, Senator.
We are live.
That's all right. I don't mind that one being live. Actually, I think we did like 5 amendments, and we kept smaller and smaller parts until we got to the full
I
bill.
think we're good.
I think we're good, yeah.
Okay, should I go off live, Senator Sears?
I think so. We're